Hello, my name is Frances Fox, and I'm a trained remote viewer. I do have a degree in political science from the University of Miami, which I have used in very unusual ways. We're not going to go into that. All my psychic skills are honed, and I chose the difficult life that I have had until now in order to be able to acquire and hone these skills so that I can apply them to life, to giving information that is deeper in the other dimensions that can make life make more sense and to where you can make better decisions because you have more information, particularly information on why something is happening at the causal level, which basically, thinking about it now, would be the physics of a problem. I believe physics means how something works. And my training started since I was a child, and I work with scientists and military, and they did not necessarily understand because they didn't know about the other dimensions and being a psychic, etc. And I was a little kid. So they would get very cranky and very angry, and that was not to my advantage. So what I learned to do was to sketch the movement of energy and the structures that do exist in the other dimensions. Things are not just rolling around like clouds in the other dimensions. And because of that, I ended up being able to read at a mechanical level of how things function, which I believe is physics, except I do metaphysics, which is deeper in the other dimensions. And I did that all prior to incarnated in or to incarnating in order to be able to do what I do today, which is to bring to the table extra information. So this is a chat that's converted into a podcast, and it's on Spotify and it's on Apple. It's called Frances Fox News from Other Dimensions. So we're going to go back into the energy of sex, politics, and religion. When you think about it, we need to get a grip on everything having to do with sex because there's so many ultimate issues today that could cause the collapse of society that revolve around sex, starting with the um, Epstein list, um, the Diddy list, both having to do with sex trafficking and the holding back of the information. And I am sure it is because they are afraid not only that a lot of important people will be exposed, but that there will be a collapse, a potential collapse of society when people become aware of how many important people we have respected have been caught up in the web of sex trafficking. And then, of course, we have the collapse of population collapse. It has to do with the lack of sex. People are not having sex. The younger the children, the less sex they're having. And so we're not reproducing ourselves, at which time we end up with populations that are old without young people coming into the workforce, working, paying taxes, etc., and sustaining those social security checks to the older people. So that has become a situation to where governments are becoming hysterical about it. Japan was the first, but the rate of condom sales in Japan is very low and has been for 15 or 20 years. And when I wrote the book that I wrote in Spanish called Sex, the Path to God, Japan stood out as a country that was not that interested in sex or orgasm. Our discomfort in discussing the physical body, the parts that are sexual, orgasm, and all the rest of that is just an indicator of how mishandled the subject of sex has been since the planet started. Then we have our religions, and we have the religions that use Jesus Christ as a marketing tool. And I don't really care who I offend when I say that because it's accurate. And if you think about it, you'll go, well, that's true, but no, don't but. It's a Jesus Christ has been a marketing tool. Jesus Christ, the face of the age of Pisces, 2,000 years, we're now going into the age of Aquarius, did not have sex, according to the Catholic Church that used him as a marketing tool. That did not bode well for sex. The Virgin Mary had Jesus Christ without having sex. Now, and as I say to people, if you were a little kid and you came home from school with the stories that we're told by our religions, and you told those stories to your mother would tell you, stop lying. That doesn't make any sense at all, and you should know it. And yet, as adults, because it comes under the guise of religion, we accept it. Well, you know what? We've accepted it to our detriment. So you have religion putting a big X on sex. And then, unfortunately, we have cults that use sex to control people because they know that if they can sexually abuse you, they're breaking a part of your mind, because every inch of your body has your mind strings in it. If they can break you through sexual abuse, basically they have you under control. And it's true. So we have the ETs, the galactics, that I think very few people will continue to say that doesn't exist. And they're not sexual. You never hear it was a male alien that I saw, it was a female alien that I saw. And nobody asks, what's this with them not having sexuality? Nobody asks that question. Well, we spent decades arguing about whether they existed or not, and then we went into, I think maybe they do. Oh my God, what a waste of time. And nobody is still asking, they don't have any sex? So we're not asking the questions. We're not looking for the answers. We're not going to causal. And it turns out that populations are collapsing, which means that countries are going to collapse. We went, I believe, you can look it up, I believe the United States went into population collapse 2 or 3 months ago. I saw that on X. I believe it was Elon Musk who said it. What does that mean? That means that this country no longer can hold a position of power, because within one generation, which I believe is 15 years, the population will not be able to sustain itself. In other words, we will fade out. And now we have Russia, which, I'm sorry, but I adore Putin. He does not, it doesn't really matter who's got a theory and who does this and how we're supposed to, he just looks at stuff and okay, wait a second. He's the one that won't allow GMOs, genetically modified food, in Russia. He's the one who said no microwave ovens. And here in the United States, everything's genetically modified, and it has been applauded. And microwave ovens are not an issue. And some people say to me, well, I don't really have an issue with radiation because I really don't use my microwave. Did you know that if your microwave is plugged into the wall, it is radiating microwave frequencies, even if you don't turn it on? And I'm going to tell that story now, because this is the way I teach people. I was sitting doing a mantra session, which means I had my rosary, my Buddhist mala, and I was sitting there repeating a mantra, no, 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 no. And I was looking at my feet, my shoes, and all of a sudden I saw this stream of gray energy, like a laser, but it wasn't laser like straight. It was a stream of gray energy kind of meandering out of the kitchen, and it came to my feet, and it landed on a buckle that I had on my shoe. And I went, wait a second. What is this? And when I walked into the kitchen, it was coming from my microwave oven. So, because all kitchens are built with microwave ovens. So I went, I thought we had disconnected that. So I opened the cabinet at the top, which is where the plug was. It was disconnected. I didn't quite know what to do, but I called somebody who worked for a big company that had made something called the electrosmog detector, which has to do with detecting radiation. Something weird happened there because they had this great idea of creating these small electrosmog detectors that the kids could put on their lapel, on their pocket, and then they would go to school and it would beep if they were too close to radiation. It never happened. They did build the large one, which is handheld, and then they stopped interference. So I called the guy on the phone and I said, I'm going to ask you a question, but you need to know that if you repeat to anybody that I asked you this question, I am going to deny it. I'm going to say that I never asked you that question because this is just too wild. He said, okay, okay, what is it? I said, and I told him the story about this energy coming out of my kitchen from my microwave, but my microwave is not plugged in. And he said, well, I said, I don't understand. He said, you don't need for your microwave to be plugged in for it to be radiating. There's an expression that has been used about me, and it's la loca no está tan loca, which means that crazy lady, she's not so crazy. So I thought it was a bit crazy. So anyway, the microwave anchored to the metal decoration that was on my shoe. So microwave grounds in metal, like the metal in your teeth, the metal in the braces you put on your kids. So I went into stories and I lost my track. So we have huge issues having to all major issues on the planet that bottom line end up revolving around sex. So here's another issue. 30 years ago, nobody had bottles of water. Maybe you had the big containers, because I remember when we went to Cuba, when we were sent to do intelligence work, when I was 11, I was sent to Cuba, when everybody was leaving Cuba, they would, all the homes, except the poor ones, they had big 5-gallon, 20-gallon, I have no idea, bottles of water would be delivered for the home. But nobody had small bottles of water, and there was no issue with water. If you sat down to dinner, you'd get maybe a small glass of water. Maybe one day you'd say, oh, I'm thirsty. Okay. Now, everybody has a bottle of water next to them. And if they forget it, they go back into their home and they pick it up or they buy one at the counter at some store. Water. Okay, what's that got to do with sex, Francis? Well, the element of water is channeled or is the element of the sexual sacral chakra in human beings, the one that's 2 inches below the belly button. It's the only energy center that works, that channels the water element. And obviously, we're dehydrated, which we weren't before, which means that the energy center that has to do with sexuality is dehydrated. So, all the issues with water on the planet have to do with something going on with that energy center. Okay, so now that's health. And then we have all of these people that want to have children and they can't, so they do the procedures, the in vitro IVF, I think it's, and what is that all about? Why can't you just have sex, get pregnant, and have a baby? Not so easy anymore. So there we go with the sex again, and that's the sex energy center, the sex chakra, which is 2 inches below your belly button. Then let's go into politics. So, in terms of reproduction, women are struggling to get pregnant, and the sperm fertility issue is out of control. And sperm need a particular temperature in which to live, but the microwave from the radiation from the cell phone that's near their energy center 2 inches below the belly button heats up. Microwave heats up. You boil water with it. So when people went around with what happened to the fertility rate, guys, you're microwaving the water in the energy center that has to do with fertility. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. No, you don't have to be a rocket scientist, but you do need to know that the spirits that are associated with the sexual sacral chakra are called incubus and succubus. And according to the Catholic Church and everybody else, they are the worst. They mind control, they turn people into perverts. So we have the fertility rate, collapsing populations, And then you have impotence and frigidity. And I don't really have any statistics on that. It's more concerning that people just really don't want sex. And the younger the kids, the less they're interested in sex. And I've said this story before in the podcast. I had a woman, she gave me permission to say it, except it's a generic story, that her son had a girlfriend and they had been together for like a year and they slept in the same bed most nights of the week, whether at her house or the girl's house. And the son told her that they didn't have sex. I mean, yes, I am older. I don't get it. When I was young, you just simply didn't lay in bed next to a guy. You just didn't do it because it was pretty obvious what was going to happen, might happen, was people were thinking about it happening was sex. And today, and now that woman called me several weeks later and said, I talked to a couple of friends of mine and they say it's the same thing with their kids. That they have a girlfriend, boyfriend, and they've never had sex. This would have been 7 or 8 years ago. And it's only getting worse. Okay, so let's go to politics. What does sex have to do with politics? Well, that's really easy. I was controlled by the intelligence community, and everybody knew you controlled the politicians either through money or through sex. And I was sex trafficked to politicians. So, and then if a politician, until relatively recently, chose to be gay or bisexual or whatever, they couldn't hold their position. They would have to hide it. And then they were blackmailed. There we go with the sex again. Let's go to religions. Catholic Church, Christianity, Jesus Christ. No sex. Jesus Christ's mother, no sex. Yeah, but she had a kid. No sex. Hello, hello, hello. Do we notice something here? Do we notice something here? Did I have... So then now we're at the ending of whatever having to do with not really understanding sex. So you go to a sex therapist. I bet you anything they don't know the definition of the word sex. The definition in the dictionary is to cut and to divide. And that actually is referring to what has been said in the Bible. Man, God put man on the earth, noticed he was bored, cut a piece of him and created woman. Cut and divide. And then you have the entire population of the world that I'm not going to get into the bisexual and gay and all the rest of that. I haven't been able to adjust my language, my attitude, or to be politically correct on that, so I'm going to ignore it. You get the world population divided in two, male, female. Now I'm going to go into the whole gay, bisexual thing. If we got cut and divided, the definition of sex, that line, which basically put us tumbling down in terms of the process of being with God, I believe that our process of returning to unify with God means that that cut and that line needs to disappear, which should mean that the gays and the bisexuals are very evolved. And I'm going to drop it now. That statement I'm going to drop. If you want to read more about that, on my website, the Dolphins wrote a lot about sex, fascinating information. And you can go there and look it up. Put francisfox.com, Dolphins, sex. Just put sex and you can read all the articles and you'll go, whoa, this is interesting. And it really is interesting. But I'm not going to get into the evolution of the human race on planet Earth and its relationship to sex. I already did that in the book, Sex, the Path to God. What I'm talking about today is the very real issue of population collapse, which basically means it really doesn't matter how good you are, how great Trump is. and how great all of his choices are and how great the economy can be, we are headed towards demise of a civilization and potentially the whole planet. Not really, though, because Latin America doesn't have that issue. Maybe that's why it was said that at this time in history, Latin America would be a place of power. So, how about if we look at that and not get jealous that Latin America is going to be a place of power, because they are reproducing themselves? But how about if we just deal with the problem we have here, which is an international problem, which may not be happening in Latin America today, but will happen at some point unless the whole issue of sex is understood. So, going to causal, what happened to sex drive? About 10 years ago, as I said in the chat yesterday, about 10 years ago, maybe 15, I don't really remember. I need to go back and see the dates. I got very concerned about the fact that as a psychic, nobody was asking me about their girlfriend or boyfriend. It's like they stopped caring. And the issues were about prosperity and children. But since the planet began, the issues have always, with the psychic, the thing that bores us to tears is the question of mate. And if you notice that most of the songs, more than 90%, and if I'm wrong, somebody correct me, of the songs that have been written throughout history have been about mate, girlfriend, boyfriend, a woman you long for, a man that you yearn for. And it triggers enough emotions that a song is written about it and the whole world sings it. What's going to happen to our music? Because, and it's okay if our music changes. What's not okay is the whole issue of population collapse. Now, Putin, as I said yesterday, and I think I'm going to read it again today. Putin has decided that he's going to deal with it. And I said yesterday, and I was laughing, but I'm not really laughing. I'm not going to submit it to Putin because why would I do it? To Putin. I'm here in the United States. Let's get it done here and get the protocol out to the whole world. But he said that they're going to set up a ministry of sex. And let me read to you what was in. What's interesting is I saw it on X, and then I didn't see it in any media in the United States. And if you look it up on the internet, the media comes mainly from India, and then a couple of other countries have this information about Putin and the Ministry of Sex, which is only in relationship to population collapse. So let me read it to you for those that have not, that are not aware. And if you heard it yesterday, you're going to hear it again today. This is what was said in the article. Turn off the internet, turn up the heat. It's cold in Russia. That's an order. With birth rates plunging in Russia, 72-year-old Putin is pushing for his people to have some serious pillow talk, literally. Russia's new baby boom strategy includes a ministry of sex dedicated to inspiring Russians to get cozy, complete with internet blackouts after 10 p.m. to encourage connection. That's in quotes, encourage connection. The Kremlin is pulling out all the stops within government, all the stops with government-sponsored date night, wedding night hotel vouchers, and even talk of a salary for stay-at-home lovers. They're calling it a special demographic operation. Can you believe that? It's crazy, but it's not crazy. What's crazy is that people are not looking for the root cause of what happened to sex drive, which is what I was researching 10 or 15 years ago, and I called it El Gran Apagón, which means the big turnoff. What turned off everybody sexually? And the response, the answer is our radiating devices. Microwave radiates, Wi-Fi radiates microwave. Microwave evaporates water, the element of the energy center where we have sex, sex drive, we produce ourselves, have babies, create at the highest level. We create from that energy center, 2 inches below your belly button, and we have microwaved it to death. Microwave heats up water and heats up cells. Fertility, sperm need to have a certain temperature to survive. Can we live without Wi-Fi? We don't need to. What we need to do is establish protocols having to do with how far away. First of all, you can't sleep with your cell phone, okay? You can't have your cell phone on top of your body. Give me a break. Another thing with the whole microwave thing is that your wisdom is held in your third eye, which is where your superpowers are. And microwave basically kills your third eye. So we have not had wisdom, because if not somebody from way, I'm not the kind of scientist that should be coming up with this information. It should be regular heart scientists, not a metaphysician. But nobody was noticing, no one was paying attention. And it was said by people that did a lot of studies, as I did, but except they didn't relate it to the whole sex thing, that the reason the government was not dealing with the issue of radiation from our cell phones and devices was because it could cause a collapse of the economy having to do with the technological companies. That is not true. Atlantis fell because there was no ethics applied to the technology, and we're doing that again today. So guess what? Let's get ethical, having to do with our technological, wonderful, convenient gadgets. At this time, I am understanding a little bit more about frequencies, because microwave is a frequency. And I did not know that, or I wouldn't have cried as much as I and other people have cried about this issue, because it's like people couldn't hear us. It's a frequency. So then that's not a great frequency. It was never supposed to be near our physical body or our energy bodies. But there are other frequencies that can correct that, such as trilling, the sound of birds chirping. Oh, the ex little bird. When it went away, it was like, oh, don't do that, don't do that. But you can have, and we have in the Mantrista movement, we have compositions by Mateo Cuaron. And the ones, since I discovered that trilling, which is a frequency in music, can correct what microwave breaks, I have it in all of the compositions that are being made for the Mantrista movement. And those videos are all free. They're music videos with images and frequencies that help to correct different things. But now they all have the trilling in them. And I am putting together a playlist that should be installed in all electric cars. Not that you have to go someplace to Spotify and maybe you don't have an account, or you don't know what. No, it should be installed in the car, and people should be educated as to a protocol of playing these videos. They don't have to be the image part of it. It can just simply be the frequencies, the sound, and it can be very low so that it can correct what the electricity in the car is breaking, not just in the human energy field, which is the mind strings from string theory that we all have. We have 72,000 of them that extend from a center axis. But the Higgs field is destroyed by microwave. The Higgs field that science doesn't really understand, but in metaphysics, it's been called the life web. And it is a web, and it's electric. So years ago, and some of you know the story already, I said, I want to understand what happens when you have electricity and microwave in the same space. And nobody could answer. And I asked a lot of people. I don't know, we don't know. So I finally met somebody who's a genius and who was I think an engineer. And he said, you know what, we're going to make up a little thing and we're going to do a little experiment. So he made up a little box with electricity which was very easy. And then we had the cell phone. And I had asked my masters and God to please allow me to see microwave. I wanted to see it, and I wanted to see electricity. I want to see it. I want to see it. And he would turn on this little box and put the wires together, and there'd be electricity, and would turn on, and I could see it. It was kind of okay, and would turn on the cell phone with the microwave, and the electricity would go crazy. It could not hold its structure. And I went, bingo, I knew that. The electricity will wipe us out. Why is that important? Because we have an energy body, which I will show you now, which is electric, which I am only showing and talking about this as openly because Trump is president and RFK is going to be in charge of our health. If he hadn't become president, I wouldn't be saying this now. The second body from the left is our electric system. It's called the etheric body, and it is a Higgs field in the shape of the physical body. So that same webbing is all around us, multi-layered. Microwave burns holes through it. They're called portals. And the portals are the ones that let spirits and other things come in. So this information is, I have it. I have not tried to hide it from anybody. I have been afraid to share it because I am sure several people's lives have been terminated because of information similar to this in the past. I think that that's not going to happen today. And if it happens, you know what? I'll take my chances. We have the ability to have the technology that we want, but we need to understand what it does to the human energy bodies. And then we need to provide very simple protocols that basically don't cost anything. But we have to get it to the public. We have to get behind that. And in doing that, we're going to be addressing the issue of what the hell happened to sexuality. And I find it fascinating that women today dress as if they were ready for sex in the next 2 minutes, because I don't really care what people are saying. Yes, everybody has the right to dress any way you want, but the way you dress is basically something that you're telling other people about you. So if you're dressing so sexual, what are you saying about you? You're very sexual. Don't touch, but I'm very sexual. Here's everything hanging out. Don't touch. Fine, no problem. But that's a lie because they're not having sex. So why all this sexuality? You're not having sex. Yeah, I have sex every once in a while. Good, great, great. So there's a reaction to not having sex, because if not, people wouldn't need to look that sexual. Like with a man that is with a different woman every week, he's not doing so well sexually. I can tell you that. I know. He needs something extra, a new woman, and then he can manage to perform. Something's the matter. So this whole thing with looking so sexual is another symptom of the lack of sexual energies flowing properly in our bodies. Okay, so then we go to the bottom line. Kundalini. Oh yeah, my wife takes Kundalini yoga. Great. Ask everybody who takes Kundalini yoga if they have had any spontaneous orgasms. And they're going to say no. And they're going to go, oh, I've heard about that. If you actually have Kundalini being stimulated, you're going to probably have spontaneous orgasms, and you are going to be a lot more sensual. That doesn't mean you're sleeping around. I'm not recommending that. So if you look at the people that are doing the Kundalini yoga, they look very nice and they're very trim and slim and but the sensuality is not there, because the Kundalini is not getting stimulated, because there's some stuff about the Kundalini that we're not aware of. So why am I getting on to that? Because Kundalini is an energy that is our connection to God. That's pretty important today that we're in end times and we're supposed to be reconnecting to God. And we're not getting that in our religions, and we're not getting that in Kundalini yoga classes. And nobody's really having enough sex. And nobody is able to reproduce. Very few people can reproduce in the way we used to. And our biggest idol, which was Jesus Christ, we were told his mother never had sex, and he didn't either. That's a bit of a problem. So, where am I at here? I've talked for 35 minutes. I think I repeated what I said yesterday, hopefully a little bit more systematically. So, our society can collapse if they release the Epstein list. That's society, politics, economics, all because of sex. Our population's collapsing because of the great turnoff, which means nobody's having sex, they're turned off. Something's not going on. Our children are doing weird things, laying in bed with people of the opposite sex or whatever, even the same sex. They're not having sex. We've had sex is supposed to be like an instinct, and it's not happening. So we will be setting up a protocol. I'm sure I will never get it over to Russia, but maybe the information will get over there. And we need to very quickly get this corrected. So what can you do about that? You can do a mantra. You can do our mantra music video, which has horses, which stimulate sexuality and correct sexuality. They're used for pedophiles when they do therapy for pedophiles. You can go to the beach. Everybody knows that when you go to the beach, people are more sexual. Water, which is the element of that energy center. You can also go to the mountains. It's very grounding. Not as good as water in terms of augmenting sexuality. So you can go to the beach. So then more water means more sex. Everybody knows that. And we're not getting enough of it from the little bottle of water that we all carry around. And I have found, so it's not a coincidence that the worst spirits on the planet are the ones that live in that energy center, the incubus and the succubus. So we need to know more about them. Well, I can tell you about them. They come in through the left ear, a portal that's here. And they're also the ones that are responsible for bipolar. They come in, they go down to 2 inches below the belly button, and then they kind of go to sleep there until there's an interesting happening or they want to destroy somebody's life. And then they come up, they take over, and you got a monster on your hand, a person that normally is very normal. So we need to know more about those beings. And but it is not governments, and it is not religions, and it is not groups that are controlling the understanding and finding the information to correct this path of destruction that we're on. It is spirits that have created all sorts of blocks and cloaking and invasions of the mind and whisperings and control of our religious leaders that have us reaching this point. So if you don't believe in spirits, then there's still a huge chunk of information that's missing as to how did we get here. We got here because there's a group of spirits that would like to take over our bodies and turn us into zombies that generally reside in the sexual energy center. And in order for them to do what the Bible, the Mayans, the dolphins, and everybody said was be happening now, they have to get us totally dysfunctional in that department. So a belief in the spirit world and an understanding that if the Catholic Church has a listing and they say these are the worst ones, in Tibetan psychiatry, they have a listing, and I don't know if they say they're the worst ones, but they're there also. We have to be more respectful of information that has been on this planet forever. We can do this, and we can do this pretty quickly. The information can get out there because of all this technology. The understanding of frequencies. Oh, I have too much of the frequency of Wi-Fi in my house. I need to put on those videos 24/7, which is the way I have it in my home, 24/7. I still get nervous because I have my Starlink and I have Wi-Fi here, and I don't turn it off on at night the way I used to, because I have the Armantrista music videos, which have the trilling. It still makes me nervous, thinking that maybe that's not enough. Apparently, it is enough because I don't appear to have the symptoms of having that excess Wi-Fi. But I somehow we're going to have to measure that. But getting those frequencies, getting the element of water and the element of earth, because the microwave radiates the fire element. So if you put out the fire, so the trilling is a frequency that corrects, by the way, microwave breaks DNA. So the trilling can correct that. And then if you have enough water, you go to the beach, or you look at these Mantrista music videos, or you look at but you have to do a lot of them. The Mantrista music videos you can put on 24/7, and they should be 24/7. Every place, restaurants, downtowns, everything. And they can be put on very low. Um, and then the images of water, because we can't get to the beach every day. Some people never go to the beach in their life because they don't live close to one. But you can look at the videos that have water in them. Our videos have water in them. And the whole documentaries with water, that is obviously very soothing and also purifies spirits. That's why Jesus Christ, the first thing he did before he went out to teach, he had baptism in water, because the water takes away spirits. The food, by the way, of the devil is fire. Element of fire is what's radiated by our devices. So you start to connect the dots and you go, it's really very, very clear. So I will be setting up a protocol, and I need to do it really quickly. And then we need to get it out there and have people, but let's not get like the people from Hollywood to promote it, because it seems to me, from what I'm looking at the national scene, that they're not everybody's favorite people today. The fall of hierarchy is very obvious. It's in the Bible. It says, and the meek shall inherit the earth. And that applies to all these revelations about these really high up people that have always done what they do, but now it's horrible. It's a sin. But they always did that because we are entering the age of Aquarius. This is good. So we have to get regular people to promote this, and we have to make it cool and all the rest of that. But we can do that. And we're going to do that. So we have several aspects of our life that are going to collapse, and it's simply because we have not understood the importance of sex. We cringe when we use the word orgasm, and people like me I wonder if Facebook's going to take this down. We cannot put the word sex, much less orgasm, when we're going to send out a newsletter on the subject. We can't put those words. They won't let us send it. They will not send the newsletter. Well, the thing we need to know the most about, we're not allowed to talk about. Got to correct that also. So let's do 5 minutes of a Mantrista music video that has water and has the frequencies that can help you with the microwave that is damaging your electric system, which is your immune system, by the way. And the mantra, I think I'm going to give the mantra, yes, you can still buy for tonight. And I don't send you the link. You will automatically get a second email when you purchase it, and it will have the link on it, okay? I play the trilling all night. So the mantra we're going to do is, give me a second. I swear the things that I don't know how to do on the internet, it's kind of scary. How did I ever get here? I wonder if I spelled that right. I did. Okay, this is the mantra. You repeat it in silence. Environmental with an O at the end. I knew I had made a mistake someplace. We're going to have to excuse it. And then I'm going to put on the trilling music. Okay, and we're going to do 5 minutes. You repeat the mantra in silence. And take your breath to 2 inches below your belly button. Now, why did I put environment? Because this will heal the Higgs field around you. We live in a Higgs field. The Higgs field is a supporting other dimensional structure around us. When you have a haunted house, it's because the Higgs field is broken. Radiation opens portals, which means practically all of our homes are haunted. Okay, I really am going to stop talking. What a novel concept. Okay. How do you feel? Tomorrow, I promise not to talk so much about sex. I am going to teach you more about how to start clearing that energy center um, mentally through healing, which should be nice. It's going to be maybe the first time I'm going to start teaching here in this chat how to start to take care of yourself in other dimensions. Okay? So we shall see you back. And any comments, please send us emails to Francis at francisfox.com. I still have zero postal service. None of my mail has been forwarded to me since the 22nd of August. There's something going on Miami, really, really interesting to where they think they can get away with controlling federal mail. Ah, I'll tell you when we get this resolved, and we'll figure out who it is that did it, which of course was the Cuban political mafia. But we will keep you updated on that.